Welcome back. This will be the final tutorial wherein I'll talk about the sprint execution and tracking. I'll talk about the various forms of daily stand-up using the board's swim lanes. I will show how to log work against a task, how to see various details of the story. I will also explain about moving the story to done and who should do it. I will show how to raise and handle impediments and usage of links in Jira. I will talk about the new tasks as well which gets discovered during the sprint execution and how to handle them. Finally, this tutorial I'll end with a couple of slides on the reports and about the Jira query language. Well, to get started with in the sprint execution, the daily stand-up can be done in multiple ways depending upon the board setting, whether the team is comfortable story-wise or assignee-wise. Here the screenshot shows the Scrum board is arranged story-wise. This is a story. Let me zoom a bit. This is a story. This is a story. So all the work pertaining to the story is aligned. So the the board is arranged story-wise. The logic here is we as a team will talk about a story, keep it in the context, and whoever has got any task either in progress or which has moved to the done or planning to pick it up will talk about it. Then we move to the next story. So the daily stand-up happens story by story. By doing in this way, the context of the story remains intact in everyone's mind. They need not do a context switching between story to story. On the contrary, an efficient context switching between stories would be required in case we arrange the board assignee wise as shown in the next slide. If we happen to arrange the board assignee wise, we'll have to do a very efficient context switching, which is generally a challenge. Here I am showing the configurations that is required to change the board settings. We saw the board settings in our earlier tutorials. Go to the swim lanes and change this drop down to assignees. Swim lanes need to be, sorry, I jumped a couple of slides. Here the swim lanes are based on assignees. You move to this option. This will arrange the stories or the work based on an assignee. This is how the board will look if you use assignee wise. Let me zoom a bit. This is how the board will transform to if you choose assignee wise. In this type of layout, all the standard issue types and the subtask issue types assigned to a particular user is grouped. So based on the user, everything is lined up in the respective columns. A particular user might have subtasks under multiple stories. So this subtask could be under a particular story, this could be under a particular story, this could be under a different story. This format of the daily stand-up makes it difficult for the team members to collaborate and will push the team towards giving their updates and then mentally they might switch off. So it encourages an individual update sort of a model of working and they will mentally switch off, which is counterproductive in the agile world. In the agile world, we would want the team members to collaborate amongst themselves in the daily stand-up. That is the main aim of the daily stand-up. If we do it this way, the tendency is that a particular team member would give us update and mentally switch off. This format of daily stand-up makes it a bit difficult to give a conducive environment to the team members to collaborate. That is why I have a strong opinion against using this type of a format for daily stand-up, because it doesn't help the team members to collaborate. Now coming back to the story-wise format, the best way that I have found to facilitate a stand-up is to start by collapsing all these swim lanes. You can use this particular option and collapse all the swim lanes. You collapse all the swim lanes and use this arrow mark, expand one particular story, talk about it, collapse it, expand another one, talk about it, collapse it, and go on like that. This is how it would look once you expand a particular story. Once all of the work of this story is discussed as per the daily stand-up, we move to the next story. This is how it looks once a particular story is expanded. The team members ideally would have moved the task to the relevant column before they come to the stand-up. The slide shows a task being moved from one column to another. You have to just drag and drop. In this case, the testing work task is being dragged and dropped from the to do column to the in progress column. That's what the team members would do before they come for the daily stand-up. Now let us see how to log work on a task. On a daily basis, it is expected that the doer of the task logs the work prior to the stand-up so that the burn down chart shows the correct information. In this case, click the development task DP41 as an example. Click on this particular task DP41. Here, click on time tracking. There's a plus mark. Click on time tracking. The screens to log the work might look a bit different in the version of the Jira that you would be using, but overall the functionality would be the same. The moment you click the plus mark over here, you are presented with this particular pop-up. As you can see, this task was originally estimated as 4 hours. Let me zoom a bit. The original estimate of this task was 4 hours. I am logging the time spent as 3 hours, 3H. And the time remaining can be updated as per these three options. You can update to a specific time, you can automatically update it, or you might not don't update the time remaining itself. It can be updated to a specific time, or it can automatically update by subtracting 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. It can do that. Jira can do that. Or we can use the option do not update as well. In this case, I am updating as 3 hours spent. 3 hours spent. And I'm using update to a specific time, and I'll put that 1 hour is remaining. That's what I'll do in this example. In case I've spent, let's take another scenario. Let me zoom a bit. In case I've spent 3 hours on this particular task, and if I update that 2 hours is still remaining to accomplish this particular task, I get this exclamation mark with a tooltip which says that 1 hour overestimate. My original was 4 hours. I spent 3 hours and I'm updating that 2 hours is yet to be accomplished. So I'm over by 1 hour. That is what this shows. I get a yellow color exclamation mark. Observe the color of the exclamation mark. It is yellow in color. It can so happen that I spent 3 hours and finished the work itself. I spent it well ahead of time. My original estimate was probably 4 hours, and within 3 hours itself I finished the work. In this case also I will get an alert as shown. This time the color of the exclamation mark is blue, while in the previous slide it was yellow. Additionally, there is a lot of information on the screen. Original estimate was 4 hours. The rest of the information we'll see in the next slide. As you can see, mousing over on this section will get a tooltip as 1 hour overestimate. It is shown in the orange or a yellow color bar. If there wasn't any overestimate, we would have just had a blue bar running through and through. It even shows how many hours are remaining for this particular task to be accomplished. Once the task is completed, it is moved to the done column by the owner of the task, and this task gets struck off the moment it reaches the done column. Remember we did the card layout settings in tutorial 2, board settings. On a daily basis we can see what the original estimate was and how many hours are spent on this task. It is all because of the board settings that we did in tutorial 2. On mousing over the figures, you get to see something like this. Let me zoom. Original estimate is 4 hours for this task. If I mouse over on this, it says that original estimate was 4 hours. Mousing over 5 shows us time spent was 5 hours. Mousing over this portion, it tells that 2 hours is remaining to be accomplished. We had chosen these particular fields in the card layout in tutorial 2. If you don't remember, I would suggest that you kindly visit tutorial 2 and see this particular setting. What did we do in tutorial number 2? The effort and the history of the story can also be seen in a detailed view. If you go to a particular story, by the way, you can directly navigate to a story by changing the URL. You just have to give the story ID over here and plus enter. You can directly navigate to the story as well. Once you get to the story, you can see the details of what was spent on that, what are the various tasks and how many hours are spent. You can click on history and see the history of the story. You can see the details in the time tracking. Once all the tasks under the story is moved to the done column, let's take a scenario. This particular story, user story DP26, which is user story number 3. All the tasks, these are the 2 tasks to accomplish this story. The moment the last person moves it to the done column, is given this alert, which states that all the subtasks under the parent issue are done. So it says, would you like to move the parent also to done? Do not hit update without having the product owner having seen your story and having accepted it. If the demo to the product owner is still pending, click cancel. To be on the safer side, always, as a team member who has the responsibility of moving the tasks to the done column, to be on the safer side, it is always better he or she clicks cancel. Let the product owner have the privilege of moving the story, which is the parent issue, to done column. So as a team member, we should always click cancel. Once you click cancel, you are presented with a button over here against the parent issue, against the story. This button appears, move to done. Clicking on move to done is the privilege of the product owner. After the team gives him or her the demo of the story, once the story is demoed to the product owner can click on the button move to done and accept the story. So that is an act of accepting the story. Additionally, observe the card colors and even the icon of the subtask as well. We did the card color. We chose these card colors in tutorial 2. Now, let us see how impediments are handled. Let us assume that the team runs into an impediment on this particular story DP24, which is user story 1. Impediment is nothing but a roadblock on a story which is stopping the team members from progressing on that particular story. So it is the responsibility of the scrum master to resolve those impediments. Now the scenario is the team has hit upon an impediment. Let us see how do we handle such a scenario. Before coming to the stand up, this is what the team member will have to do. Remember, we created a new standard issue type as impediment in tutorial 3, which was about adding new issue types and handling impediments. If you do not remember, I would suggest you visit tutorial 3 and come back here. The team member will create a new standard issue type and choose the type as impediment. So he will create another standard issue type, standard issue as issue type as impediment. Give the description of the impediment. Choose the particular team and create a standard issue type. He or she will link the impediment to the particular user story as well. On scrolling down, let me go back to the previous slide. On scrolling down a bit, you will see the section where you can link. He links the various options in this drop down. What it says is this particular impediment which is being raised blocks user story ID DP24. DP24 was the user story, ID of the user story. and he'll say create. Now, this new issue by default got created in the backlog. Let me zoom a bit. Here. This is the impediment we just created. It got created in the backlog by default. Now we need to move it to Team Alpha Sprint 1. All that I got to do is right click here and you say move and move it to Team Alpha Sprint 1. You get this alert. You say confirm. Now this impediment appears in the sprint backlog of Team Alpha Sprint 1. The impediment we just created appears in the sprint backlog. Now, as a part of the daily stand-up, we can talk about this impediment and bring it to in progress and done as and when progress is made on resolving the impediment. Once the impediment is resolved, it is moved to the done column. If you navigate to the burn down chart, you will find this impediment which we added is treated as a scope change in Jira, as this is added after the sprint was started. So it is added as a scope change because we added it as a standard issue type. Nevertheless, let's not get hung upon the term as scope change. All that we are interested in is to have a placeholder to log an impediment and track an impediment on a daily basis. That's what we have accomplished. Let's not get hung upon the word or the phrase scope change. Now let us see how the team will handle, or rather during the sprint execution phase, it is natural for the team to uncover or discover new tasks. If they discover additional technical work during the course of the sprint, they can add a subtask under the particular story. That also would appear as a scope change in the burn down chart. Under DP24, which is my user story 1, ID DP24, I am adding an additional development subtask by clicking on this plus mark. As you see in the burn down chart, there is a vertical red line which goes upwards. It indicates that there is an issue that has been added. I gave the development work that I added requires some hours to accomplish. Hence, you see that vertical spike. Hence, you see this vertical spike upwards. Let me change my pointer. Hence, you see this vertical spike upwards. The burn down chart. The same is reflected here as scope change. I required 5 hours to do this additional development work. That is what I've given over here, due to which we just saw a red vertical line going upwards in the burn down chart. Well, this is how the sprint report looks for Team Alpha Sprint 1 at this point of time during the sprint duration. We will see it again after we close the sprint. All you got to do is navigate to the sprint report and choose the drop down as Team Alpha Sprint 1 to see the current sprint burn down chart and the current state of affairs on the particular sprint. We'll revisit this once we close the sprint. Well, let's move to the sprint closure. Ideally, this is how the board will look when all the stories are completed by the team members. The team members are done with their technical work and they have moved all their respective tasks, the how part of it, to the done column, and all the stories will have this button as move to done. The product owner, after reviewing the stories, should click the move to done buttons. It is an act of accepting the story. The moment he clicks move to done, it means to say that he is satisfied with the story, the demo that the team has given on the story, and is accepting this story. This is a screenshot of Team Alpha Sprint 1, and the scenario that I'm considering is that Team Alpha Sprint 1 have been able to demo all the stories and meet the sprint goals of Sprint 1. That is the scenario that I'm considering. This is how the board will look once the product owner accepts all the items. Now the Scrum Master is free to hit complete the sprint. This would ideally happen on the last day of the sprint. He can hit complete sprint. On clicking complete sprint, you get a message stating this is a message that we get all the 7 issues. Everything is an issue in Jira. I keep on repeating this. All the 7 issues are moved to done and he can hit complete. Once you hit complete, this is the sprint end report. Now if you navigate to the sprint report and choose Team Alpha Sprint 1, we'll get the sprint end report. Jira provides a provision to create a retrospective page as well in Confluence. You can link it to a Confluence page. This is the burn down chart at the end of the sprint, and this section shows the list of items delivered by the sprint, delivered by the team in this particular sprint. Which are the stories, what are the story points, what is the spike, the production bug, and of course the impediment is also listed over here since we added impediment as a standard issue type. Now, let us assume that team beta could not complete all the stories. They could not meet their sprint goal. They did not meet their commitments. They could successfully demo only 2 stories. Hence, you have the move to done button only against these 2 stories, and the rest were not completed for whatever reason. The product owner will click move to done after the team gives the demo and he accepts the stories which were demoed. Ideally, in this case, he will accept these 2 stories, user story 6 and 5 and 6. He'll click on move to done. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, this is how the board looks for team beta. They could not complete all their sprint goals. Only these 2 are completed. That is why it is struck off. While these 4 items were not completed for whatever reason. Since it is a sprint end, the Scrum Master will hit complete sprint. On clicking complete sprint, we will be prompted with this alert. It shows that two issues were done, which are the two issues. The two stories have successfully moved to done, and four issues are incomplete. Going back the previous slide, these are the four issues which are incomplete. That's what the alert is saying. Four issues were incomplete. Additionally, the prompt suggests the incomplete items to be moved to the backlog. So you can choose where you want to move it to. If you have already created the next sprint, it that also will appear over here. In this case, I am moving it to the backlog. When we move the incomplete stories to the backlog, the subtasks as well along with the parent issue will get moved. For example, a particular story had three tasks under it, three technical tasks under it, out of which one was done and two were incomplete. All the three will get moved to the backlog along with the parent. The two tasks will go to the done column and one will go to the in progress, or whatever was the state of the task when it gets moved. This is how the sprint report for Team Beta shows, Team Beta Sprint 1 shows. It shows two stories are completed and four are not completed. Two are completed and four are not completed. It is imperative that the management would want to know what happened here and why the four parent issues were not completed and things like that. It is not possible for the Scrum Master to remember offhand. Hence, on clicking linked pages, we can link a page from Confluence and give the details there. We can create a detailed summary report as per the need and link that page here. That's how you can use the linked pages. This is the velocity report. Moving on to the velocity section. So velocity chart section. Clicking on velocity report. This is how the velocity report looks. The velocity report, it shows the committed story points and the completed story points team wise as a column graph. It shows team wise. Gray color column is the committed story points, and the green is what they've completed. In this case, Team Alpha had committed 13 and they have delivered 13. Team Beta had committed 13. The velocity report also shows the table data in the tabular format. Well, this brings us to the end of the tutorial on sprint closure. We're nearing to the end of our tutorial. Let's move on to the report section. Here I'll combine both reports and the Jira query language and complete this series. In the report section, there are various types of reports. This is the report section. There are various types of reports: burn down chart, which show burn up chart, sprint report, velocity chart, cumulative flow diagram, so on and so forth, epic burn down, release burn down, all of that. The main ones being burn down chart, burn up velocity, and sprint end report. we can choose this drop down to select a different report. The reports which we previously saw while closing the sprints will be available here. It is for record purpose. We did see a little bit of Jira querying language when we did the capacity planning. Jira query language gives us the ability to query the Jira data. It has some standard operators and functions. As you can see, the moment you press a space bar, you're presented with the operators and or order by, as the case may be. That is the best part. As soon as you start typing, the auto rendering feature presents us with the correct and appropriate options. The details of the Jira query language is out of the scope of this tutorial. I just want us to know that how to use Jira query language, the various functions and operations that we can do. I would encourage you to explore it on your own. It is pretty straightforward. As you can see here, after I typed R and did a space bar, you get various that syntax help that you'll get in a auto rendering. We can get the query results once you've chosen, once you've written the query. All you got to do is click on search button. The query results is a list of issues which will get listed over here. You can download it as an CSV file and open up in a Microsoft Excel. These are the options that we have. Well, this brings us to the end of this series of using Jira. I hope you enjoyed the series as much as I enjoyed sharing my knowledge. Kindly leave your comments here below. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.